Welcome to Bliss Boss Talks. I'm your host, Jaya Rose, a life coach, speaker, doTERRA team leader, and a mama of two free-spirited girls. And you are in the right place if you are ready to live your dreams without sacrificing your needs. I'm going to be talking to other soulful leaders who are walking the talk, and we are touching on all things personal development, spirituality, and what it really takes to be the boss of your bliss. Are you ready? Let's go. Hey there, and welcome back to Bliss Boss Talks. I'm really excited to bring a fun interview today about media and about getting into the media, but more specifically about what does it take? What does it take to show up for you and your message and really put yourself out there in a big way? So PollyAnna Brown, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here.
Oh my gosh. So we were talking before we pressed record about really a mutual obsession of each other and how we just have these parallel ways, and the internet is so cool for this, right? We just met on Facebook and we've connected a few times, and yet we kind of are in each other's orb in a way, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know what that is, but obviously we're meant to come together. And I know that when we first met, we both were doing completely different things than what we're doing right now, right? So
iteration 1.0.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking to, that change, I know we were also talking a little bit about that, but I would love to know, and to let all the listeners just know, what has your journey been like since your online business started? And how do you figure this stuff out? And another version of this question, is really like, what are you passionate about and why? So you could go with either version.
That's such a great question. So for me, my journey started by really identifying what was it that I really loved. I had a business before, and I did that business more out of duty and more out of an idea of how to make money online than it was anything else. And for me, it was something that everyone had told me I'm so good at it. They really loved it. So that's what I focused on, but it wasn't really fulfilling for me. And so I was showing up, being of service, but it didn't go very well. It didn't go very far. And it was because I wasn't passionate about it. So I had to really dive into myself and figure out, what is it that I'm passionate about? What do I love? And how can I serve with that? Because if it's not of service, then it's not truly a business, in my opinion. So if I'm supposed to show up and be of service to the world, how can I do that in a way that I'm fulfilled as well as fulfilling others? And at the time, storytelling was something that wasn't really common in business, but was just catching on. And I have been a lifetime storyteller. It's always been my biggest passion. And I was like, this is something that I am actually genius at, that I've got so much experience in, that I can really serve and make a big difference here. And I was so passionate about entrepreneurs because I always felt that if world peace was going to come, it was going to come through the innovation of entrepreneurship. And so being able to stand behind the messages and the stories that go into brands, companies, businesses, and individual people who are out sharing that with the world, who are the leaders, was something that just absolutely lit me up. And so I dove into that, and things just evolved with time. So it wasn't so much that things changed as much as it was I got to deeper levels of storytelling. I got to deeper levels of helping people get their message out in unique and authentic ways that allowed their audience to really resonate with what they were talking about and go to the next level. And so that's how it developed into copywriting and then publicity in the media, because all of that is about expert storytelling, really sharing that message, understanding your person, and being of high service. And so when that is the common thread, that is where I just kept deepening into who I was and unveiling that and being of higher service on each level of growth.
I love that. And I love how your initial question is this fulfilling for me? And is it fulfilling for other people? Ultimately, is
Mhm.
it of service? And how you just connected all those dots, I think is super valuable as well, where you're saying, okay, I knew that storytelling was something I'm really good at. But you know what? I think a lot of people would not say, oh, well, then you should totally go into publicity as well. Right.
Yeah.
And yet, but you feel the threads, and I know that when people work with you, I bet they feel those threads too. And so that's your unique positioning, right? That's
Absolutely.
and that's so cool, because I think that a lot of multi-passionate women specifically, and even women who are more intuitive and empathic, they feel how other people feel, right?
Mhm.
And that can be such a hindrance to this deepening, and almost put a mask on, like, oh, I'm changing and I'm not allowed to change. But it's not really change, it's deepening who you are. And
Exactly.
do you tend to attract people who are kind of like that, who are needing that permission a little bit to be fully who they are?
It's a bit of a mix, and it really depends. Sometimes I attract people who are actually further along that personal growth spectrum
Yeah.
than I am. And so they teach me how to deepen in new ways while I'm helping them with something else, which is always
Mm.
a beautiful exchange. And then
Mm-hmm.
there are times where I am the person guiding them into permission. And sometimes that's really, that tough love standpoint of, you have to make a choice and you have to make a decision of who are you going to be in this moment? Because you can either pander to the past of who you've been, or you
Mm.
can create the vision of who you truly are and truly want to be and decide to be that now.
Mm-hmm.
And
Boom.
so creating
Mic
that
drop.
space is powerful.
That's like huge. It's kind of what we touched on before. And I'm like, okay, cool. That's now the show is over, because that is literally the point of everything right there. It's everything. It's everything. Well, so I think that's interesting that people come to you because they have a big message, they have a business that they want to promote to, right, through media.
Hmm.
And is there a certain place in your message or your business that it's better for? I mean, I'm sure there is, but what is that place?
Let me just have you clarify that question on better place.
Yeah. So a place in your business that,
Hmm.
okay, I'm curious, if you're just starting, do you start with media? Do you need to have,
Oh, okay.
okay, you know what I'm saying? Like, do you have to have
Yes.
your message? Like, how important is it that you have all your ducks in a row? And what ducks do you need to have in a row?
Well, it totally depends. And the interesting thing is, you can absolutely do it at any level of business. It's just, are you going to choose to do it in a way that benefits the business, or are you going to do it willy nilly?
Mm,
And I'm I'm very strategic. So I like having the ducks in a row, and I have a very particular way that I like to do it. So a lot of times people come to me and they think their messaging is ready,
mm,
and it's something that, we kind of tell people, you have a message, so go share it.
mm-hmm.
And we don't really remind them to make sure that that message is resonating.
Yeah.
So if you, for example, if you're in a stage of business where you're not getting consistent clients yet, it's still a little rough around the edges, it's feast and famine, and there's no consistency there. And so, let's say you put out a post and sometimes you get crickets and sometimes you get tons of,
Yeah.
comments. That is a space where the message isn't honed in yet.
Mm,
It still needs to be tested. It still needs to be tweaked because it hasn't become something that people are all in about.
mm,
And that is the key. Now, you don't have to do that alone. I help all of my clients with that because it's something that is external. And when you're so close to it,
yeah.
it is so difficult to see because we're passionate,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when you're passionate about your message, changing it for any reason can seem inauthentic to who we are. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's this process to go through. It's almost like a mini dark night of the soul, where you have to remember that the reason you have a message is so that it's of high service to other people. And if it is meant to be of high service to other people, they better be able to receive it.
Mm.
And
Yes.
so when you come to that understanding, Then you start shifting things, and they're small things. They're very rarely these huge, massive shifts. It's usually a word here, a word there, just to make it so that your people can understand, because wherever you are, your people are behind you in some way.
Yeah.
And so your understanding of the message is completely different from theirs. So you have to get to a place where they can understand you so you can bring them where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the journey. So sometimes we have to shift the message just a little bit. And once we see that converting, that is where you really want to go to media, because that is when the media will really start sending you people to your tribe. And then you have a system of service, as I call it, that delivers that traffic into your tribe.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to, number one, have the message that converts, that really speaks to your people. And then you want to build the system of service that takes that traffic and turns it into clients, leads, all of that.
Mm-hmm. So powerful. And I love how you're saying it's not a huge shift. It's not like,
No.
oh, you're doing it totally wrong, but it's like you're doing it from your perspective. And I can totally relate to this. I'm wondering if you would be willing to do a little example of just how, like, what type of shift is powerful so people can understand for themselves.
Absolutely. So because we have a lot of spiritual people on here, I'll use that as the example.
Okay.
Maybe let's say we're going to call her Sally, and Sally's freaking awesome. And she is serving people, and she is a spiritual entrepreneur, and she is teaching people to ascend to the next level so that they can manifest whatever they want.
I know
Right?
Sally. I know her.
Sally is freaking awesome, and she's doing such important work in the world. But the people that are following Sally are entranced by her because they don't really understand the message, because ascend is a very particular word that you use when you're at a very particular stage in spiritual evolution.
Mm-hmm.
It's very specific. So for the people who are behind, who are looking into manifestation, who are, the people, let's say she is definitely looking for beginners, that word is going to scare them off because they don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how can I ascend? I'm not special,
Mm-hmm.
right? How can I do this? I can't even manifest a free frickin' cup of coffee.
Right. And you know what? I'll be honest. I've been consciously doing manifesting for 12 years. I've taught a lot of manifesting, and I know it really well. And I don't know what that word means. I've had clients who have used those words, and I'm like, we need to get more specific. What is that? I literally don't know what that means. So I feel you. And this is huge, huge for people.
Absolutely. So what we would do is we would really start talking to her people. And this is the most important thing. If you have a message, you have to talk to your people.
Yeah.
Please don't hide behind your message and make yourself someone who is unattainable, right? Someone who is on a platform that can't be touched for a couple of reasons. It makes you unrelatable, which is no fun for anybody. And it really sucks as the person who's on the platform. And the second reason is you will never truly understand your people. And if you never truly understand your people, you can never truly serve them. So in order to be of service, we have to talk to them. We have to grab their language. We have to see what words they're using. So instead of, I'm going to teach you how to ascend to the next level so you can manifest anything you want, that might look like, I am going to teach you how to grow within to actually learn how to manifest the first, 10K month in your business. Something a little more specific. And then that can shift to, I am going to teach you the mindset techniques that you need to manifest that first 10K month in your business.
Boom.
Right?
And I'm like, oh, right. It's such a huge difference.
It is. And the intention is the same. And even the content is the same, right? We haven't shifted any of what we're doing. We have just given it focus, and we've given it the words that that audience uses. And every audience is different. So you have to talk to them. You have to find out. Everyone always asks the question, like, can I do a survey?
Yeah.
Of course you can, but it does not have the same power is when you're actually having conversations. And the reason why is that on social media and in our businesses, we are constantly in conversation, whether there's a back and forth or not. And because we're constantly in conversation, we have to know how they react to our energy, how they react to our words. So if we're never talking to see that direct interaction, then we are completely missing the boat for how they interact with our unique energy, our unique setup. And that's what makes our message special. We're the conduit for a very particular message for a very particular person through a very particular filter, which is our energy and ourself.
So powerful. And so for someone like you or like me who has shifted, or we're talking about it's really just grown or gone deeper, but it kind of looks like shifting, right? How do you start to manage this? Who am I talking to now question? Or so now I've shifted, and does that mean necessarily that my audience hasn't? Do you feel like there's like an audit that needs to be done or clarification on this over and over again?
I do. And the reason why I do is because whether you're shifting or not, which I mean, if you're not shifting, I'm shocked.
Yeah.
No judges, but just shocked. But business in and of itself and your people, you should always be deepening that relationship and always in contact, always talking, always evaluating things, because your people are going to grow. Your people are going to shift and change, and what they are learning is going to shift and change. So for example, 10 years ago, I believe The Secret came out around 10 years ago. Most people were not talking about manifesting. It was talking about in hidden corners, with crystals, and no one said that they were going there. This was when it was, secret drum circles and stuff like that. And that was a completely different market than what it is today. So you can have a conversation now with almost anybody on the street, and they'll have a rough understanding of what manifesting is, as opposed to a few years ago when it was very niche, very hush-hush, completely different. So you have to know how people are interacting with the conversation going on in the world, which is always evolving, always shifting and changing, as well as the conversation within themselves, which is, again, constantly shifting and changing.
Yeah, the growth piece is so huge. And of course, I hope everyone definitely is growing and changing. It made me think of something because I recently, in the last year, got involved with doTERRA, and I had never been involved with, well, that's not true. I had been involved with MLMs, but only ever to get the discount. I did Arbonne, and I actually did Young Living Oils, and I always just was like, sure, I'll sign up so I can get the percentage off, right? But I never had really aligned with a company and said, wow, yeah, I would support you. I'm in this with you. And so one of the conversations around essential oils, which I think speaks to what you're saying, is that just 4 years ago, you had to educate people on why essential oils are good.
Yes.
Why would you even use them? How do they work in your body? And then now it's completely different. People know that they're good for you. They just want to know who they should buy it from and why they should buy it from you or from doTERRA specifically, or, and it's like, that's just such a cool example, I think, of what you're saying, that if I say I want to go in and be like a top doTERRA person, which is not specifically my goal right now, but say I did, and I was like out there with this huge message of, this is why you have to use essential oils. And it would be like I was beating a dead horse.
Absolutely.
So I think it's like, that's really easy to come across that information because they do a lot of education and they tell you that as a company and the top leaders and stuff, right? So if you're just like a solopreneur and you don't have this umbrella of information about, well, your people were here, or even like manifesting, that's such a cool example because it is obvious how much it's grown, and even in the media or in, on social media particularly. But what if you're in something that's a little less, or even maybe you can use you as an example, where using media for your business, I think has expanded so much just in a couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So it's like, how do you, or what is your different messaging towards somebody who didn't even know that you could use media to, like, now it's like, this is how you need to leverage the media, or,
You have to understand the conversation that's going on. Where are your people in that process? And how do you advance that conversation? Because our job as business owners is really to be leaders of the conversation we really want to have.
Mm.
And so if we have to be the person that's leading the conversation, we better know where it stands.
Mm.
And we have to talk about it from the standpoint of not everyone might be at that same point. So we need to make the conscious choice. Are we going to allow the other people to catch up and be confused, or are we going to try and grab them all? And there are different ways to do that. And actually using the media is a great way to do that because you can talk to different levels of awareness in different spaces.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all intentional. And you can have any conversation you want as long as you're being intentional about it and it's of service to the people that you are serving.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really about keeping that awareness up and making sure that you're driving the conversation in a very intentional way. Who do you want to be speaking to? What is the goal of that message? What action do you want them to take? And what revelations do you want them to have? And that is where you're going to get a lot of the magic in the messaging.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, it's so good and powerful. So when you're talking about media, what media do you specialize in, or what media do you really like for a more heart-centered or spiritual-based message?
That's a beautiful question. I think for me, my favorite thing ever is online publications, and I'm going to tell you why. Online publications have a very unique opportunity for people who have powerful messages, who are looking to build an audience and tribe over time that they really want to nurture for years.
Mm.
And the interesting thing with them is that there are so many that are cemented that are still open to amazing contributor spots. And for those of you listening who don't know, a contributor spot is simply when you are writing on an online publication or to any publication, and you're writing for them. That is a contributor spot.
Mm.
And the cool thing about contributor spots is they are already, all the SEO is done for you with them. You can hook them up with a system of service. You can pixel the audiences if you're using ads or other things that are a little more advanced. So I won't go super in depth there. But you can leverage the millions and millions of unique viewers on that site every single month. And you can build your own platform within that platform to leverage over time. And then when people go to search like how to this or, what to do with this, when they're searching their questions, you have 5 articles pop up that are on, let's just say, hypothetically, Forbes, Inc., Fast Company, and Entrepreneur.
Mm.
Who are they going to work with?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
pretty clear, especially because, again, that's putting you in the driver's seat of driving the conversation that they're having.
Right.
So that is my favorite way for people who are really looking to build that long-term tribe. And I know a lot of spiritual-based business owners, it's sole purpose, right? And so when you're looking for your sole purpose, you want to look for a foundation that an empire can sit on, but it's, still your empire. It's that empire of love that you want to build. Podcasts are also really great. And I really love them for people who are looking especially to develop a long-term tribe and want to have their own, not just appear on others. I think those are really powerful. And those are my 2 favorite methods because they're the most leverageable, they're the most viral, they're the best for you to accomplish any business goal that you have.
Mm-hmm. So do you have to be a good writer to be a contributor?
Yes, but that's a skill that's developable.
Mm-hmm.
Developable.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that was a funny word.
Yeah.
What I always tell people is that if you feel that you can't write, then that's okay. There are several ways to learn to write, or you can stream of consciousness your thoughts and have it translated,
Mm-hmm.
transcribed. That's what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you do better speaking and you're a powerful speaker, have your stuff transcribed and then edit or hire an editor.
Mm-hmm.
And that way you're still leveraging the written media without having to write. But writing accesses a different part of your brain and a different part of your energy than speaking does. And so you can be much more intentional, and it's a good way to expand your communication skills and expand your ability to empathize with others, as well as to experience different parts of your energy that you might not have access to otherwise. So I always encourage it, even if it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. So is that something, say someone comes to you and you're going to lay out a plan, which is obviously very well thought out and strategic, and you obviously have so much knowledge. Are you going to have them, I guess, okay, here's the question. Are you, it sounds like you have so much skill around writing and storytelling. And so do you support people on these types of things too, where they're going to come in? Okay. So they're going to come in and not really have their message super clear, not really want to write anything, but you're going to then help them get into these contributor spots with the clear message and the writing that feels good.
Absolutely.
Okay. And how do you do that? How does that?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So I have multiple trainings that we go through. I edit all of my clients' stuff. So instead of them having to hire an editor, I actually do it myself.
Wow.
So I have a very strong writing background, and I started my media journey by becoming a contributor in multiple online publications as well as print magazines. And that was really powerful for me. And it was kind of an oops. I did it because I didn't know I couldn't. And so that worked out really well for me. And so I have a lot of experience going through and knowing how to communicate in these different ways on these different platforms. And instead of making my people go through and kind of learn it all themselves, it's really a hand-holding process where it's like, I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to take you through the process. I'm going to have you write the draft because I trust you. And I know that you're capable of doing it. And I want to see you put that trust in yourself. And then we're going to go through it together. And I'm going to show you how to strengthen. I'm going to show you how to get better, because becoming a better writer doesn't happen in the process of the writing. It happens in the editing. That's where the magic happens, because what happens is we have all of these belief systems when we're writing. And we have these belief systems that are built around language, which are actually even more taboo than our belief systems around sex and money. So when you're shifting someone's language, you're shifting all of the emotions and beliefs that they've associated with that language. So it becomes its own method of growth, and it also shows you where you can be more effective. And so what starts to happen is every time you edit, you break down the neural pathway in your mind, in your brain, that has created that, and it starts building a new one with the new skill that you just learned, the new way of communicating. So every time you do that, you're becoming a more effective communicator, and you're becoming a more effective writer. And so over that process, you can have massive jumps in growth and ability very quickly.
Sounds like it. So you are obviously, like I just mentioned, very knowledgeable about all of this, but also you have so much passion. So where does the passion come from for you specifically around this? Why this? Why do you love teaching this?
Oh my God, I love that question. So I have had this passion for stories ever since I can remember. And I remember being really little and believing that stories can change the world. And back then I was thinking fiction. I was thinking about how I always connected with movies that I saw and TV shows and books that I read. And I was obsessed, is the best way that I can put it. And so entertainment stuff became my focus, entertainment storytelling. And it was a big part of who I was for the longest time until my late 20s. And when I realized that storytelling is the fundamental piece, the funnel way to communicate between all beings, regardless of age, regardless of where we're from, regardless of what language we're speaking, that stories can really connect us beyond time space, because stories exist in their own way. We can tell stories with pictures. We can tell stories with faces. We can tell stories in our body language. We can obviously use words and written words, but those stories connect us to not only where we've been, but who we can become.
Mm.
And that power of showing people, not just telling them, not just being like, oh, great job, atta girl, atta boy. Like, it's really changing the fundamental way that people see themselves and see their abilities so that they can become whoever they need to become to have the life that they want and create massive change in the world while simultaneously becoming the person that the world needs them to be. Because they heard or told a story that transformed themselves and others.
So powerful. And you mentioned a couple times changing the world, and so I'm curious for you, what is your big vision? What is your driving force? And, kind of your why, but really your vision for the work you do and for all the people who you serve.
Oh, that's so great. I would say that my vision is to create not just a business, but to create awareness around the power of storytelling, the power of media, how to use it for really good things, and how to show up as a really great human being, whatever that means for you, not according to my standard, but according to your own standard of who you wish to be. And to leverage that for good. I think we're seeing a huge transition from, fear-based media to inspired-based media. And it's a slow shift, but it's definitely happening. And as that shifts, my vision is that my business can be an important part of that shift in the world so that good people doing good work are coming to the forefront and leading that next evolution in our world, who are leading the next nonprofits, the next charities, the next for-purpose businesses, while making really good money, because I do believe that prosperity shifts the energy of the world. And when we are doing good work, we should be massively compensated in very positive ways. And so having that together and creating that new paradigm is really important for what I want to see in the world, because when I have children and when they come into the world, I want them to be able to see themselves doing good and making a difference. And from what I do, when you touch someone, you shift them within. And when you shift someone within, they do things differently. They think differently. They act differently. They speak differently. And they choose differently. And when you can inspire someone to choose differently, you have just created a different world, because everyone affects everyone else. And there is this beautiful ripple effect that happens. And so I want to know that when it's my time to pass, that my work, whether it's credentialed to me or not, I could care absolutely less. It has made a massive shift in the world for people to become empowered, inspired, and uplift one another into this place of prosperity, into this place of empowerment, and into this place of supporting one another on a scale that we may have not seen before in recorded history, that we can look forward to for the future.
Amen, sister. I'm with you. So powerful. I feel like we all are really here to bridge the gap, from the old way. I call it the depression era to the digital era. And we all have this place. We all have this place that it's really important for us to show up. And I just honor you in showing up so powerfully and passionately and consistently and knowledgeably. You are a force. I feel it. I'm sure everyone else feels it. And I love what you're doing. I love your direction. And I just want to say that.
Oh, thank you. That touches my heart. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, you are obviously so heart driven. I feel your passion and your heart, but like they really ride together. They're like the ride or die team.
That's how I like to roll.
Yeah.
Ride or die.
Yeah, exactly. So good. So as we wrap up this amazing conversation, I took a quiz of yours and I want to tell everybody about it. And it was the best quiz I've ever taken, specifically because at the end of it, Polly gets on this like beautiful video telling you everything about you and oh my gosh, I can't even do it justice, but I want to tell you guys, you need to do it because I felt so seen, heard, understood, and celebrated, but also pushed to do it bigger and better, which I don't think I could say it any better than that. It was so good. So please share with us.
Oh, thank you. The link for the quiz is bit.ly/publicity quiz. So super simple.
Mm-hmm. And we'll link it in the show notes as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So that quiz will tell us what?
It'll tell you what your media personality is, how you can leverage it to get more publicity for you and your business, which is just so important. And the other pieces that you need to know about your personality, one that make you special that you probably don't realize make you special. Because we always take ourselves for granted and we don't see our superpowers as anything other than liabilities most of the time. So it really puts it in perspective, and it also shows you how you are valuable to the media and how to show up and really get that started and make the most out of your media and publicity experience so your message can go out to your people and really build that tribe, and create that, consistent source of leads and clients into your business and into your tribe.
Yeah, so good. And like I obviously already highly recommended it. So I think so good. Well, I honor you. I thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, your service. I just love how you show up and all the beautiful lessons and your particular message and how you share it. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. And I love you and I love your people. And I'm so glad that I could come here and just be of service.
Yeah, amazing. All right. Thank you everybody for listening, and we'll see you guys next time. Yay. Thanks so much for listening and being here. And if you loved this episode, please take a moment to rate it on iTunes. I feel so honored when I read your reviews, and I would love to feature you on the podcast as a spotlight review. Also, find me on Instagram at Jaya Rose, and I would be so excited to share your story into my story. I just love seeing the feedback and that you're listening. So share it out on social media. Share it with somebody who you think it could benefit, because us showing up for other people is what this is all about. It's a ripple effect of change, and we do that by sharing. So thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time on Bliss Boss Talks.